to people, the main thing you've got to understand is you've got to constantly evolve. You cannot stand still, even more so in today's world. As you said, ChatGPT excites me and scares me equally at the same time. People say money doesn't buy happiness. Absolutely not. But I tell you what, poverty definitely buys misery.
Welcome back to Take a Seat. Guys, we've had phenomenal feedback from you guys. Loads of people coming on the podcast and some great conversations. Today, we got a superstar on. I've been following this guy myself for quite a long while, and it's amazing having him on. He's a remote property investor. He invests in the northeast of England, and today he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey, how he's done it, and where he's going, because he's got some different views. So stay tuned for this one. Well, welcome, Harvey Growth Properties.
Thank you very much for having me. And wow, what a great intro. And
Yes.
You're too kind, I think. Now it's just a case of trying to live up to your great intro. But
There's no living up.
thank you very much for the intro. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited. I've been watching what you've been doing, and it's great. The movement you're making is really phenomenal. So yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, well, I'm watching of people like yourself, and I think of you guys as like my older brothers, also mentoring us as well, even passively, because I love what you're doing. I know you're not forcing yourself onto people. I've come onto your lives and you explain things really well. And I'm like, right, so what are the best bits I can learn off you as well? Because we're always learning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm an advocate of that every day. My boy says to me all the time, you go to school still, Dad? I said, yeah, every day. Every day's a school day. I want to learn. I just want to be around younger people, older people. There's different things to learn from different generations. And definitely one of the things I've learned over the time is wisdom definitely does help with time, but there's still, the world's evolving so much. Like, just because you're wiser and older doesn't mean there's new evolutions that are coming through that just for younger people that can understand. And
Absolutely.
there's such an opportunity today that I've never seen in my life, so
100. Like technology is moving so fast at a different pace. You're getting information, the quickest we've ever got information, and it's quite scary in a way as well. Like, I don't know if you've looked at Chat
GTP,
yeah. If I wanted to do this podcast today, I would just say Harvey Growth Properties 20 questions for him, and it will probably give me 20 because it will look through Google, your social media, try pick you up and go, these are good questions to ask him. Northeast of England, etc. I haven't done that today, by the way. I like to think this is going to be a little bit more organic. I respect you, and I know you have a lot to say, and it's brilliant that you just touched on being a student of life, because so many people, once they get to a certain status, they're not really coachable anymore, and they go into a fixed mindset, and they think they know it all. They've got money coming in, so they don't need nothing. But I don't think there's longevity in that, because things go old-fashioned and things come out of time.
Yeah, Darwin said it. It's not the smartest or the strongest of the species that survive. It's the ones that are most willing to adapt to change. And when a change in place, that's my little tagline I say all the time on the social medias, is evolve your ideas to live on your terms. My why is to live on my terms. My mission is to help as many people live on their terms as possible, and using financial education, mindset as a tool to do that. And I say to people, the main thing you've got to understand is you've got to constantly evolve. You cannot stand still, even more so in today's world. As you said, ChatGPT excites me and scares me equally at the same time. Probably slightly a bit more scared, but I'm embracing it. It's like, look, this is the future. This is what we're going into. I'm 45 now, and it's like, I remember being a kid, not having a mobile phone and just meeting my friends, and I kind of look at that and think, I've got a nostalgic level of life from or view or thoughts from that, thinking it's nice, it's less complication, but also I love being able to run my business and my life on my phone, to be able to just go anywhere and just operate from my phone. So it's equally exciting, equally scary, but you've got to embrace it. You've got to evolve into that, otherwise, like Darwin said, you will go extinct.
100. Like, you've said some valid points there. I've also grown up, kicking ball in the park after school, meeting my friends at the clock tower by 6 o'clock, rather than, and if it weren't there, you'd come running back and go, hi, is that Sam's mum? Has he left yet? Oh, he left 5 minutes ago, and you're putting the phone down, you're running back up. Like, they were some of the best years and best times, and we were sort of like a bit more rooted. But again, we do need technology to get ahead and communicate faster, because time is money as well. And how do you create that value? But how do you find the right balance in today's age? Because certain people are being hit with mental health. They're getting anxious. Like, people have got to realize real life is not social media.
Mhm.
It's 10 times amplified. If I'm at a party and you see this slow mo and with some nice people, that's like once or twice in a month,
Yeah.
maximum. And that's even then, we've just been like invited out for the best hour and we've got a couple of shots and we've just got to show people that's what we're doing. That's how we're mingling and jingling. But it's not like that all the time. And somebody's looking and scrolling, going, look how good their life is. Look how amazing it is for them. Like, how do you strike the right balance?
That's difficult, to be fair. First thing I will say is I've got some values. I've written values down, and I remember going through a personal development journey and coaches and mentors. I remember when I first went and got some coaching. I got coached by a guy called Roger Hamilton. He was Simon Zucchi's mentor as well. And I was like, you talk about values and your mission statements. I was like, just show me how to earn some money. I don't need to know what's this got to do with earning money. I didn't realize how entwined it was finding out your why and your values. But number 2 on my values is awareness, and awareness is key. You're never going to get this perfect. Everybody thinks like the Buddha said this thousands of years ago. The biggest form of suffering is an unrealistic expectation on happy. So everybody thinks, oh, look at Sean. He's doing what he's doing. He's successful. He's got a perfect life. But that expectation on other people's life is what makes you more unhappy. Everybody's got challenges. And the bigger you'll get as well, the more, like, especially financial success you'll chase, the bigger challenges you will have.
Yeah.
So the bigger amount of pressure you need to be able to take on board with that. So it's vitally important to be self-aware all the time along the way, because this feeds back into evolve your ideas to live on your terms. Because what I could potentially handle pressure-wise, challenge-wise, maybe 2 years ago is very different today when I've got a 1-year-old baby in the house waking me up at night and my sleep's deprived a little bit. So it changes all the time, and especially when your fitness changes and your life changes, your health changes, just as you naturally progress and get older. So you constantly got to be aware of your surroundings. But number one thing I say about social media is be a producer of social media, not a consumer of social media. If you can get your mindset into that, you can emphasize it massively. The thing with social media is, like alcohol, like drinking, like drugs, and all these things, it's very addictive. And there is benefits, believe it or not, there's benefits. If you drink 1 glass of red wine once a night, there's antioxidants in it's pretty healthy, and it de-stresses you. So somebody who drinks moderately will outlive somebody who's a teetotal. It's been scientifically proven.
Wow.
So same again, dark chocolate, a couple of chunks of that's good. But if you go beyond the point of diminishing returns, it's unhealthy. Same again, lots of drugs are good, but they're too addictive. So the point of diminishing returns is becoming too quickly and you get addicted. So same with social media. It's just trying to get an awareness and a balance of it. And you will never get perfect. It's trying to find some markers in you, not biomarkers, but markers in you to say, okay, this is where I'm drifting too far this way. Because sometimes I need to be on social media more than other times. I might be running a promotion. I might be trying to research stuff and I need to be on there a little bit more. But then I get stuck in a rabbit hole and then research is over and I realize, oh, I've been still consuming too much, So that self-awareness and having little marks in there to know when you're drifting too far one way from time to time is really, really important. But touching on the mental health element of it, without question of doubt, I've got 100% sympathy for people with mental health. I've been sectioned under the Mental Health Act twice, fully locked down, like you're dangerous to society, you cannot come out. Yep, twice locked down, fully locked down. Third time it nearly happened. And so I've got the utmost respect and sympathy for people with mental health. Funny thing is, you mentioned the guy earlier on, he's polarizing, Andrew Tate, and he says depression don't exist. But when you listen to what he says beyond that, he says, look, what I'm saying is, of course people get depressed, I have depressive days, but I don't allow it to have space. I don't want to give something space in my mind that I don't want in my mind. So I don't give it the allowance. And he said, but also people are not depressed, they're depressed with their circumstances. So I'm very, very, I've just studied different mindset stuff to get myself from not being ill, basically. And I wanted to chase business and my head kept on popping. So it's like, okay, I need to humble myself and do stuff I don't particularly want to do to be able to enable myself to do the things I do want to do. So as a result, I just started really diving deep into the neuroscience of your brain, how it operates, like esoteric sort of like yogis and mindset, meditation. And initially the meditation stuff for me was like, it's a bit woo-woo. But when I started matching up with the science, it's like, wow, these yogis and these monks have known something for thousands of years. This Western world is just starting to understand on a scientific level.
Can you give us an example of that?
What's that for?
Like something like these yogis are doing or keeping a peace of mind?
Yeah, your breath work. biggest thing, everything we do is state driven. So if you're on a good move, it's state. So chemically wise, if you look at it on I looked at it on a scientific level, like I'm dyslexic, I'm not the smartest academically like that, but still I need to see some logic. If you tell me something, I'm all ears, but you've got to show me some logic with it. If you just tell me, Harvey, invest in this deal, it's going to make money. Okay, sounds great. It's going to give you a 20% return. Sounds great, but show me some logic behind why you think that. You don't need to be 100% like proof, but you got to show me some least logic. If you tell me something I don't agree with, you tell me some logic behind it, I might shift my thinking. So with that, everything we do, as I said, I got it from science. Like I looked at science behind like all these different meditation and yogis, and everything is state driven. So we're just a chemical vessel. So everything we'll do, our brain will just release chemicals naturally, automatically from our subconscious mind, because from like millennia, like as soon as we come into Homo erectus from into Homo sapiens, which means smart, by the way, like we're not egotistical to call ourselves smart, but as soon as we went into Homo sapiens, we had to learn how to survive. So the number one mechanism of the brain is survival. And the number one thing your brain does is lead you away from danger towards pleasure. And you've got to imagine even when I was a kid, like even with my nan, as I said, we're talking on early on when we come on, mixed race. My dad's Caribbean from Dominica. My mum's white English, born in East London. And when my nan was a kid in East London, there was still malnutrition in East London. It was still like after the war, there was places that was knocked down that had like
we saw rats running around.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's
not this Westfields.
But it's crazy how it's evolved. But like kind of coming back to your question there with that is everything's a state driven. We're emotional vessels. So and our brain naturally releases the emotions to deal with a situation because we had to deal with hunger, we had to deal with threats, the world. So thinking uses a lot of your energy. So we had to do things in an autopilot. So our brain over evolved into being able to just release the emotional states for you to deal with a situation without having to use a lot of energy of thinking, because you didn't have energy for food and hunting and stuff like that. But today, food's abundance. You've got Uber Eats, you can swipe your phone and you've got food on your doorstep. So, but our brain's still wired that way. So everything stays. So happy emotions like your oxytocin, your serotonin, and these happy emotions. Stress emotions and things are like norepinephrine and these sort of emotions. So everything is state driven. And naturally your brain will secrete like the right emotions and the right chemicals in you to deal with the situation you're in. So the quickest hack to hack your situations and your mood is breath. Breath exercises, breath work, it will move them, change them states. Like scientifically proven there, if you do certain breath exercises, it will shift you from a negative, stressful state into a much more calmer state quicker than anything you can imagine. The drugs that people trace, you can release these drugs in your brain because all you're doing, any drug, like for illnesses and things like that as well, any drug is just a chemical trying to balance out a chemical within you. So if you're ill, it's because you've got a chemical imbalance. So they give you a drug to try and balance that chemical out within your body. Wow. But our brain is like a pharmaceutical, so we can balance them chemical imbalances out if you know how to hack your brain. And yogis and Buddhas and these people have been doing it for a long time, hence why they don't get ill. They live for a long time as well. But breath work is the most quickest way you'll do that.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting fact. You know, I recently went on a course, still trying to stay coachable myself, and it was for a speaking course, like to get up and speak, because I start hyperventilating. Like I see all these googly eyes looking at me. Yes, I am human. And then it's just like I sometimes can't even get my breath out, or I say everything all in one breath. I'm like, I forgot to breathe, you know, like, and it doesn't look right. So I'm like, hey, I need to hit this head on. And one of the first things in this program, well, everything always starts with the mindset, and it's everything that you've been talking about so far. Where's your mind out? Have you got routine? Have you got a structure through things? And it's like managing your state and managing the audience state. But the main thing I was interested in, how do I bloody manage my state? And so you need to concentrate on your breathing, because the reason why I'm hyperventilating is because I'm getting anxious and thinking something's coming. So all the blood is rushing straight to my legs,
Mhm.
you know. So they're going, you need to start taking deep breaths and start regulating your breath. And then also take the focus off you and saying, I'm here to help other people. So,
Mhm.
you know, all this breath work, etc., it does make sense. To
100%. The way we breath is life's kind of thing. And the only other thing that's more important than breath in our mindset is sleep. Sleep is the foundation behind what we're doing. Been really geeking out. I've read his books ages ago, but I've been back onto him recently as well. A guy called Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. So important. Mutual friend of ours, Aaron Knightley, he put a post on the other day, forget sleep, let's go after it. And it was a massive thing back in the day of like, look, you can sleep when you're dead, like work.
Yeah.
But I sent him a video the other day. I didn't post on his post because I didn't want to kind of do that. But I sent him a thing, like just WhatsApped him a video, said, have a look at this. You are so much more productive. Like 0.0000001% of people can survive on less, like can be fully functional on less than 6 hours sleep. So realistically, you need 7 hours sleep. And just because you're working long, you think you get more done, you're not getting it done as efficiently. And they've done hundreds of scientific levels of tests from, like, even took twins, they've got the same genetic makeup and the same everything. So they test them beforehand, put on the loads of tests, like strength tests, like how they burn fat, how they cognitively work things out. And then they just deprive one to 6 hours sleep and the other one 7 hours sleep. And this one was outperforming the other one by miles. Don't even come across Wim Hof as well, the Iceman.
Yes.
Similar again, he's got a twin brother. They said, you're a freak of nature. And he said, look, let me take these people. It's all based around breath work. Cold showers are fantastic.
Yes.
And the reason cold showers are really good is because you have to breathe correctly when you get the cold. So it makes you meditate. A lot of people, remember when I first started meditating and going back to, my mind went a bit in the wrong direction. I didn't want it to go in again. And I was like, right, I need to do something different. So let me meditate. And I remember getting my phone at the time, phone was around, and I got my phone out, downloaded a meditation app. And I put it on for 1 minute. I didn't notice at the time, but it's really a powerful thing to get going forward. Start with incremental goals and build on them instead of having a massive goal. Because if it's too big, your mind straight away can't perceive it, and it gives you any which way reason to make yourself feel, again, going back to the emotional states we're in, it'll give you any reason to try not to feel crap about not being able to achieve it. It wants to make you feel comfortable and good and warm. And you failing something doesn't feel comfortable, good and warm. So what your mind naturally does, your mind doesn't know subconsciously whether it's real danger, like back in the day you're about to be attacked by a tribe or a saber-toothed tiger, or whether you're going to go and speak in front of a crowd, or whether it's phone up an agent for the first time, or whether it's just feeling a bit embarrassed because you've got something wrong. The brain don't know the difference. They're the same chemicals it releases. So all it does is let's drag you towards that warm feeling good chemical and away from that bad one. So if you don't know the operations of your mind, it will just keep on dragging you more towards the path of least resistance, which doesn't give you a long-term gratification or happiness. But remember, doing that meditation the first time, put it down 1 minute, let's meditate. Sat there like that. It's like, did I press start on the app? Like, it felt like I sat there for about 10 minutes. I looked down, I was like, oh, it's only 40 seconds in. So then I was like, okay, let's do that again.
Yes.
Sat there like that, and I was like, wowee, like, did I turn on the alarm for it to end? Has it ended? Look down, it was like 55 seconds. I was like, wow, my mind's busy. So I just stayed with a minute until I could not completely blank for a minute, but got to a minute. Then I went to 2, then I went to 3, then I went to 5, then 10, then 20. And I meditate like quite deeply now. It's not so much in the mornings. I have to do more breath work because I've got a son and a daughter, so it's very different. I get up with those, but I meditate every day now. But going back to that as well, on when I first sort of started understanding this, it really shifted. Going back to understanding like the meditation and thinking I'm not doing it correctly. I can't blank my mind. I thought I had to be a yogi and have this big zen zoom. But then I was like, wow, if you get in a cold shower, you guarantee you don't, like, if your husband or wife, boyfriend or girlfriend, if you've got mortgage payments late or some stress in your life, you will just concentrate on your breath. Because meditation is breath. If you can concentrate on your breath, you can blank your mind. Okay. That's really powerful for you.
Right.
You go in a cold shower, you're not thinking about anything. You're thinking about breathing because it's just so cold. You've got to breathe deep. You can't shallow breathe in a cold shower. So it's fantastic for just giving you a great meditation.
Wow. Well, that's a great way to look at it, because I always thought when people get in them cold buckets and like with ice all over, I thought it was to sort of give them a mindset of, well, my day can't get any worse than this.
It works with that as well.
So we've got to appreciate, you know, but it's great to find out some of these techniques. And I suppose that is quite, you're getting quite, deeper into that. But for your average person, as simple as just having a routine of
Mm.
know what you're doing, a couple of things that you're successful for your day, and just bloody switch the bloody phone off at 10 o'clock and get up at 7 and get your nice 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. It could just start with something simple. And then if that's not working, you want to improve on in deeper, then you can go more in depth, or you can get a mentor to teach you certain breathing techniques or how to improve your state of mind if it's going into that, level and in that depth, because you have been through something that
Mhm.
you don't want to venture back into, right?
Absolutely, and it's a case of management and awareness. So I've got little
Yes.
markers in me now. I know, look, these are the markers now. I know, look, I'm playing too much. Like, I was on a podcast the other week, and I said, look, everybody. When people come to me, I say, "What's your goals? What's your why?" I want financial freedom. Okay, but there's different levels of financial freedom.
Yeah.
You've got financial security, independence, and financial freedom. Financial security, everybody should aim for. This means that even if you've got a job, because not everybody's entrepreneurs, by the way.
Hmm.
And it really bugs me when people say, look, because I've done it, so can you. That's the worst advice you get in the world. Like, because Usain Bolt run under 10 seconds, I don't care what mindset I've got, what coach I've got, how much belief I've got in myself, I'm never going to run under 10 seconds. I've not got the genetic makeup to do that. So we've got different skills and strengths and different, like, pros and cons. And even if I've got the genetic makeup to be fast, some people just naturally faster than others, no matter how much mindset they've got. So you've got to find out where you are, who you are in yourself, where your skills are, what sort of personality types you are, but then also know where your limits are. So even in entrepreneurship, I know where my limits are now, because, as I said, if you've got financial security, everybody should aim for that. Even if you've got a normal job, you should at least be investing in something, whether it's a S&P 500, a tracker fund, or whether it's just in a crowdfunding fund where you compound that 10% in the old Richest Man in Babylon book. 10% of what you earn should be yours to keep, to invest, and then compound that for life. And by the time you're retired, you'll be financially secure. That's a financial security, because you've got some security. I don't like many pensions, but if it's a really good pension, get some security. Next level up's independence. It's very much where I'm in. So I've got enough assets that I can just go traveling if I want. I've got enough independence from the assets I've got, but I'm not fully financially free. I can't charter a jet tomorrow if I fancy just popping over to see my wife's family in Holland. I can't buy a yacht, So financial freedom is when you've got that amount of money, like, you're just free to spend it on anything. But every level you goes up comes with a different level of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody tells you. The better systems you get, the more hardened you get for it, the more you train with it. Because the more you get experience with it, the more you can handle more. So I can handle 1,000 times more today than I could handle when my mind went the first time. Like 1,000 times more. The pressure I can handle is loads more, because it's like a callus on your hand. It builds up. You can learn to build it into it. But like a callus on your hand, there'll be a point where that callus gets so hard and so big, it's not going to carry on getting any bigger. So I know where my limitations are, and I know I can slowly keep on pushing on them. And for me, fulfillment and happiness is in growth. Like, you've always got to be progressing forward, pushing out your comfort zone. But I know the switch offs, like the trade offs for me. Somebody said, I said, I don't want to be financially free, completely free, because I don't want the responsibility that comes with that. It's not because let me say this without even making myself sound like I'm a show off. I generally believe I've got the right mind and skill to be able to achieve that. But I'm not, I know the trade-offs. The trade-offs often is not having time with your family and friends, the pressure that sits on your shoulder. Even though now, with the mindset tricks I do, and I take more on, it wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't get back to sleep and things like that. I'm like, is that a trade-off for extra money? I've got a decent amount of income coming in now, so, and I want more income. I'm not got no qualms about wanting more money. I think money's really healthy. Deepak Chopra say this. People say money doesn't buy happiness. Absolutely not. But I tell you what, poverty definitely buys misery, without a
Yes.
question of that. So everybody's got an obligation to themselves and their family to at least get some level of financial security and or independence or freedom. But everybody should learn how to get money. I like money. I like more money, but you've got to work out where's the trade-off point for that. Earlier on, you said something really nice to me, and it's glad it shows through online. I'm a coach. I don't push people through to coaching programs. I actually genuinely, not a sales thing, turn people down from it. Because it's like, look, I want fulfillment from teaching you. And if I'm just going to take your money, I know there's no chance that you're going to fulfill this. That's not fulfilling for me. Like, it's not worth the money. That's not worth the trade-off for it,
Doesn't make you feel good at the end of the day if
It don't.
you're going to be like selling something to somebody and they're not going to take action. Like, we are at a frequency where we can sort of tell, how hard is your ethics and are you capable of it. And it's something so important you said earlier on in terms of property entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
Mhm.
There's a million ways to skin a cat. If you learn how to control your habits, if you learn how to build up a savings pot, you can invest in property, but you don't have to go fully fledged and start being a builder or start getting fully involved in an industry you don't know about or something clearly you don't enjoy because no one tells you about, hey, someone took my parking spot outside, your neighbors were complaining at me. 12 o'clock in the morning, you get a call from neighbors why they're banging next door. You go to your SA accommodations and things are broken. People complain and write you a bad review, even though there was actually nothing wrong. And they're nobody tells you about these problems, but they all come with it. And how much are you really going to enjoy this industry when you're getting complaints 24/7? This was supposed to be financial freedom. This was supposed to be about my money's coming in my bank account and I'm happy while I'm sipping cocktails in the Caribbean somewhere. It's not like that, guys. And so if that isn't your cup of tea, that's okay. Do something you're inspired by. Do something you're passionate about because you're going to do overtime in that and it's not going to feel like work. And you said something about Usain Bolt. You might not be Usain Bolt, but if you do something you're passionate and inspired by, then I don't care if Usain Bolt's going to, is running next to me. I'm prepared to die on that treadmill because I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
And when you find what you love, it never feels like work. So yeah, I totally agree with you there, Harvey.
Absolutely.
Harvey, look, I want to go a little bit beneath the skin and I want to find out who are you? You said you grew up in Stratford, which brings a smile to my face because I'm born in Stratford, East London boys. But yeah, tell us what you did through schools, what education, what subjects you were doing, some of your first jobs, who were your mentors. Let's go from the beginning and let's find out.
So cool. I was born in Stratford. I didn't grow up in Stratford, so we moved out when we was young. Can't remember much of it, if I'm being totally honest, but I'm super proud of being born in a great city of London. But I grew up in a village called Aveley from the age of 6. So we moved out of London and grew up in a village called Aveley. It's still on the inside of the M25, but it's just on the outskirts. Literally the next place up is Rainham, which used to be Essex, but it's now Greater London. But so I moved out at a young age. Went to school just in the area. Went to just a local school. Left school early. Didn't have no qualifications. Left school early.
Okay.
I was in and out of trouble as a youngster.
What does that mean, left early? Did you complete your GCSEs?
No GCSEs, not a thing yet. So left school dyslexic and no GCSEs.
Right.
Started reading when I was about 30 years old. I just forced myself. I said, I want to learn to read. And even to this day, I'm not a fantastic reader, but I just repetitions, carrying on doing it.
Do you actually read or do you listen to podcasts or do you listen to audiobooks?
I read every night now. So I used to read a lot. I used to travel a lot more before kids. So on the plane, around the pools, used to read a lot more physically. So I used to read at a stage where I just got a hunger for knowledge. And I used to read about 20 to 30 books a year and listen to about 70 to 80 books on Audible.
How important is reading?
It's probably one of the most transformational things that I've done, taught myself, and it's one of the most proudest things I've done as well, to teach myself to read. It's still difficult. If you heard me read out loud now, you say, there's no way you've ever read 20 books in 1 year, because I'm not a great reader, but I just persevered with it. And again, it's going back to that, I'll never be a great reader. That's my genetic makeup. But I forced myself, if you really got a desire for something, you can become better at what you would be. I'm never going to be a great reader. I'm reading literature to people and poetry, but I can read now, and I forced myself on that. But I left school. I was in that trouble. The area I grew up in was quite just, you are your surroundings, and it was quite a lot of people that was, how can I put it, just in trouble, basically. There was a lot of people from East London that moved out to these areas, and there was some big crime families, I'm not going to mention names, but quite notorious ones, that you could Google, and involved with really organised crime all around where he was. So remember, we used to go to school and see over the pub across the road when we was having lunch, these guys pull up in Ferraris and motorbikes and seemingly have the girls and all that sort of stuff. So as a youngster, that was our sort of idols and our mentors, and a few of them was my friends' dads, a few of those was my friends' uncles and things like that. So sometimes we'd jump in their car and there was characters. And to be fair, in that sort of world, I learned so much from that sort of world, because it was it's still entrepreneurial, but it's just illegal. So I got in that trouble. From young, I realised though I didn't doing stuff that was against my ethics wasn't right. So I was never a heroin dealer or a pimp or anything like that, because it was it just doesn't sit with me on my own ethics. I got in that trouble, I'll quite openly say it, for weed, smoking weed. Used to smoke a lot of weed when I was young. got involved around it. If you look at my logo and my name, my property might give you a clue on what I got in trouble for. Done it kind of as a tongue-in-cheek joke, but found myself arrested for it. Found myself locked up. So I've been locked up by the police. I've been locked up by the mental health sort of act. But it really crafted me along the way of understanding things. So left school, no education. But I remember I always had again, naturally, you cannot make a racehorse. You cannot make a pig a racehorse, no matter how much you train it. But you can make it the fastest pig if you keep on training it. But from a natural age, we had no money. Like my mum, I don't know my dad. My dad, like my mum and dad split up. So my mum's moved away. We've moved out of London. It was difficult as well as a kid because there was no other black faces. And when I was younger, I'm losing my hair now, but I've got afro hair, you know. So when I was younger, I was just like black face, but with a white family and a white culture, East London white family. My nan moved out to here, my mum moved out. So it was really confusing for me as a youngster. And there was, remember, one other black face in the village. It was 1980s, punk rock, and racism was at a different level. Racism's still around. It's not at the same level it was.
It's not really said, it's felt more.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But and again, I think sometimes, though, it's a little bit misconstrued, though, as well. Like, it's a bit misled. Like some people, and again, of course, I'm not racist, but some people misunderstand racism just for hate. You know, like if somebody don't like somebody, usually they say the thing that's most obvious to be hurtful. Right. So it's not necessarily they're being racist. They might just say you're fat, whatever, you're bald, whatever. You just say the obvious to be hurtful. And I kind of understood that from an early age. I didn't suffer loads of racism, believe it or not, even though how I grew up. But from a young age, we had no money. And I remember my first entrepreneurial ventures was around like, there's a film out in the 1980s called BMX Bandits, and everybody had BMXs. My mum bought me one, but it was really like just cheap and just no good. And it's like, it's not like I want to be targeting people at me already a bit of the like the one out from the crowd. So I was like, how can I get my own bike? How can I start doing my own things to get my own bikes? And you could take them apart and do bits. And I remember going over to a boot market. We used to always buy everything from secondhand markets when we was kids. Going to the boot market with my mum, we used to go every Sunday, and I see this guy had all these. He must have done a garage clearance because he had all these BMX like wheels, like stems, handlebars. He had all these bits, and he didn't know what it was obviously because he had them all for like 10p, 20p, 50p, and I knew that's worth £5, that's worth £8, that's worth. Okay. And from young, I don't know why, habit-wise as well. I thought, like for example, when they changed the old 5p, the big one, to the small 5p, I used to know, look, if I saved everyone I got of them, it would make a bit more of a significant amount. Like if I save pennies, it just takes too long. But if I save the 5p's and every time I get a new 5p, I save it and I don't spend it, it's not enough for me to not want to spend, but it's enough for me to save up and get a bit of momentum. Yeah. And so I remember having this money and I was like, okay, let's go and buy some of these bits. And each week everyone's going, where do you get these bits from? I was like, yeah, I was buying them from the boot market. I was honest as well. People just didn't go over there and have the effort to go and look. Yeah. So each week I'd buy a bit, sell it, earn more money, sell on and sell on. And from that young age, I just had that hunger in me. How can I earn money? We didn't have money ourselves. And I just had the curiosity around.
What age was you this?
This was probably around 11, something like that.
Bloody hell, so young entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that habit from the 5p's carried on. As soon as £2 come out, I started saving £2 coins when I was older. It was like enough to save up quite a bit, but not enough to like miss it if I didn't spend it, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I remember I bought a house up north pretty much out of a pot of £2 and pound coins. Wow. It's back when cash was a thing. I don't do it anymore because you never get cash.
You just made me think, what are we going to name the podcast? I bought a house up north with £2
I'll send you the picture of the pot. It was pretty
That's
much
what we need.
Yeah, it's pretty much a pot full of mainly pounds, £2. I didn't put pennies or things like that in there because it just, as I said, too slow.
Yes,
it up.
For sure. What was your first employed job?
My first employed job. So when I left school, I just hustled a little bit. Didn't do anything that I'm majorly bad in the law, but like I just hustled. I remember at 15, like back then it was jungle music and DJing. I used to be into DJing a bit. And I remember arranging, and we'd done a party. I used to get one of my friends' mums to hire a hall for us because we couldn't hire them because we were too young. And we only could hire them once because everybody turned up and smoked weed and drink. And that was it. There was like, you can't have this hall again. But I remember hiring the hall, getting a few older kids. Everybody wanted to be the DJ. So my methodology was they can be security and DJs at the same time. They want to be the DJs and they'll be security. So I was always quite small. So I remember doing that party and I was about 15 years old and think like I must have earned can't remember how much it was. It might have been about £400, which is not phenomenal amount, but when you look at it with inflation, like 30 years ago, it was quite a lot of money.
It's
I was
like a
like,
couple of grand, really.
yeah, I was like, wowee, one night kind of thing. And I remember putting it together. It was all off the back of me putting it together. And I was like, and I paid the other guys who done it with us.
Wow.
And I was like, right, I'm leaving school. I don't need to work. I don't need to do anything. I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 20. It didn't quite go in that route. But yeah, I think the first paid job I ever had, I must have been about, yeah, how old was I? I must have been, I think I was about 19, something like that. But I'd been earning money. I'd been earning money from school all the way through up until
Hustling
about 19.
and side
Yeah.
hustles and DJing.
Yeah, that's it. We're doing parties and little bits and pieces like that.
What did you learn from that first experience of sort of trying to run your own ship? Like you've got the decks with you and you're performing. What was some of the first lessons you learned about being an entrepreneur?
The first lessons, the early lessons I learned is, and I didn't learn these instantly, but these are the biggest lessons I learned straight away. Is that people are friendly around you when you've got money, basically, and you will really differentiate because I went from having money to having no money, again quite a few times, and you see the difference of the genuineness in people when they're around money. And again, going back to early on, everything's state driven. Money's a state. Wanting money is a state. It's an emotion that comes over you that's not fully controlled unless you're really aware. And greed can get all of us. It's got me in the past. So you've really got to be self-aware when you're going, like, again, when I've got somebody in front of me saying to me, do you know what? I want to buy your coaching program. I'll give you thousands of pounds. And I'm like, I know you're never going to be able to achieve this. Yeah. It's hard to say no to that.
Yeah.
Even though I know deep down it's not going to make me feel good. When it's in front of you, you're like, oh, maybe they could achieve it. You get these little internal dialogues that's big. So that's one of the probably early lessons I learned, people around money and just really close friends, some really close friends as well, what I see how it changed them when the money was on the table. Yeah. So them lessons got learned early, which was very tough.
It's really important, your surroundings as well. Like it's really important the people are around you, because they do say your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. The 5 most closest people around you are who you most likely going to be around. But also, when people ask me what are some of your failures, generally I've been mentored quite well, because I had my granddad there and I had my dad, and I chose to listen. However, my setbacks were some of the people who I chose to be around, and people drain your energy.
Oh,
and especially when you're someone who's driven and you want to get somewhere, they're attracted to that. But then they'll bring you down to their frequency and say, but this ain't going right. It's easy for you. And you're trying to help people around you, but they don't take it the same way. You know, that they keep bringing your level of frequency down. And all of a sudden you realize, hang on, I've lost a couple of years where I could input these couple of hours a day into my life and I can excel a lot more. You know, so the right friendships around yourself is very important.
It's ginormous. It's one of the biggest things you can do is surround yourself with the right people, and it's hard. It's a hard thing.
What do you do if you're in a council estate and you've got the wrong crowd around you, or maybe you're just in a not very nice area? What advice would you give to kids out there who say, actually, do you know what? I don't want to be like my environment. I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want to be a product for my environment. How do I get to that state?
Great question.
Where should I go?
Yeah, great question. The world is a smaller place today than it was when I was young. I grew up in a council estate, and my environment was that. People hustling, people in and out of trouble, and that was just the environment, and that's what you end up becoming. And the biggest thing now, though, is the internet. Your environment can be whatever environment you choose. There's pockets of environments online that you can find. Yeah. And again, this goes back to what we were saying earlier on with social media. It's being aware of it, being a producer of it, using it correctly. If you let social media grab hold of you, it just drags you down rabbit holes and waste loads of your time. It make you compare yourself against other people, make you like to spend loads of time that you could be doing something productive. But if you use it correctly and go into like group, like you can find existing groups. If you want to be entrepreneurial, you're a young entrepreneur, I guarantee. I don't know, I've never searched it, but go onto Facebook and go young entrepreneurs. I bet there's a group there of other like-minded people when they're all communicating, and then you connect with them. Then and again, the biggest advice I can give anybody, and this leads into what we were talking about earlier on, is start building out an online profile as well. So become a producer of social media, because the quickest way you're going to get into other people's groups and other people's circles, the reason I'm on somebody so successful as yourself podcast is because of my social media profile.
Yes.
If not had that profile, we might have met at a network event like we did meet, but it might have took like 20 odd meetings, which we probably both haven't got time to do anymore, to before we go, oh, okay, like
I wouldn't have known who you were. I would
absolutely,
have thought, oh, it's just a normal guy next to me because I'm not very trendy and I keep myself quite normal as well. So you would have went, oh, he's just a normal guy just trying to, learn a little bit of
Mhm.
something about social media. Yeah, you wouldn't have probably looked at me and went, oh, he's got 10 million property portfolio. You're just saying
Yeah,
he's just an
absolutely.
average. 'Cause I'm a big believer of not going for material items.
Mhm.
And I don't mind wearing something nice. I mean, I think this is Levi's and yeah, this is my own brand. And I find more pleasure wearing my own brand because I'm like, that's me. That's confidence.
Mhm.
Why do I need to buy one of these? I don't know, what is it called? Fendi tops. Somebody goes, oh, I've got a nice Fendi top and it'll fit you perfect. I've only you wore it once. And I was like, okay, why are you talking about? I don't even know what Fendi is. And he goes, yeah, I played 500 smackers for it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's beyond belief for me.
£500 for, and I said, but why did you do that? He goes, I don't know, I just done it sort of on impulse. It looked nice at the time. For a name, 500 quid, bro. I could buy a whole wardrobe for that.
Mhm.
I can't justify them things, even being at this level. And I think that is all about your mindset,
Absolutely.
you know?
And it's status. People are driven for status, and different statuses come in at different levels. And even for me, look, even though this is branded, I paid 60 quid for it because somebody had them cheap.
Yeah.
Same as me, I bought these from Costco. They're branded, but they're cheap. But most of the days now, when I was young, I went for it as well because we had no money. I then was chasing status through like branded stuff and trying to buy all the
So
branded
you
stuff.
understand that.
Yep. But now I don't buy it. I get more pleasure out of buying something that's cheap, that's well made.
Yes.
Because some stuff is cheap because it's not well made.
Yeah.
But there's some brands out there like Gap. You can go to Gap. I get excited about this now. It's strange. But you can go to Gap Outlet. They shut down now. But you can buy a set of chinos from Gap Outlet, which is made better than some of the bigger brands. You can pay like 20 quid for it. You go there on a certain sale day, you pay £20 for these chinos, which if you had the Fendi logo on it, it'd probably be 500, 600, 700 quid. I've got a friend
Yeah.
that does the same. He buys 700, 800 pound pairs of jeans. I'm like, what? Like the trainers, they're into these trainers, and I'm like, oh, it's crazy. It's bonkers. Absolutely.
Imagine you're spending £1,000 on material items a month because we're just talking about one item,
Mhm.
and most of their salaries, that's where they've gone. Over 12 months, they've probably spent 12,000. Over 24 months is 24,000. Obviously, guys, this is a deposit.
Mhm.
This is a deposit of a house up north. Sacrifice 2 years of your life. That's all you need to do. Sacrifice 2 years. Be stronger than your thoughts and emotion. Stop it. Lock yourself away from everybody else. Stick with your own hobbies, a nice little community, like-minded people, and you've got your house. It is really that simple. People overcomplicate this process, but
Mhm.
they're professionals in the industries. There's mentors in the industry who will show you how to put this piece together. That is a better investment than a logo that you're going to have certain people around you for a little short space of time, and then soon as the money's gone or you get married and your bills and kids and all of that comes on top, you're stuck in the matrix, you're stuck in the rat race, whatever you want to call it. You're not going to get ahead. People say it, in my opinion, Harvey, like people get it wrong. Oh, in your young years, enjoy yourself, do this, do that. Hey, hang on, like, I'm going away at the end of this month, yeah, for 5 days. My ticket was so I'm going to Naples, yeah, in Italy.
Nice.
Yeah, £39 return.
Mhm.
I've picked the dates and I went, what's the cheapest date? And my mate from Czech Republic, he's meeting me there. He goes, oh, well, don't come to Czech, is a bit dead there right now because after COVID and everything. And he goes, London, I don't know about London. I've been there last 3-4 times now. I said, so where are we going to meet? And he goes, let's check the cheapest ticket. That's all it costs, 40 quid to get
Mhm.
into a different country. So don't tell me you still can't enjoy your life. And even then, we're going to go on a Thursday night. So we've got working on Thursday. So we're taking a Friday off. Saturday, Sunday, and back on the Monday. So done a nice little 4-day trip to refresh ourselves. But it's not just about having fun just when you're young. This is the most amount of time. Like you're 45 now, I'm 36. I'm getting tired, bro. I am getting tired. I'm not that same machine that was doing 7 days a week and 5 days at Barclays and Saturday, Sunday in McDonald's. I'm not that. I ain't got that in me. Yes, I could probably be a bit more productive and make more value of my time with certain meetings and create money from it, but I can't do that now. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll do that in my 30s, you start as a man, you
Mhm.
start declining after 40, and I'm going quite close to that. When you're young, you've got so much energy. You can go to a party to for 3 in the morning and still get up for 6 in the morning. I need about 3 days to recover from that, bro. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So start now. Today, like, this is when it's supposed to happen. If you're gonna get somewhere in your life, make it happen now. Like, there is no tomorrow, because when it's tomorrow again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it's so right. Oscar Wilde said it. The youth is based on the youth. Energy is what life is. The more energy you got, the more life you've got. And the thing is, when you're young, you're complacent, thinking that's going to be there forever. If you look at Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time, there's a guy, Warren Buffett. I can't remember exact statistics, but let's just say a statistic just for an example. I can't remember the other guy's name because he's not as famous. But Warren Buffett earns, I don't know, like say 30% per year on his investment, but he's done that compounding since the age of about 12 years old. Where this other guy earns about 69%. So he's outperformed Warren Buffett by far, but he started doing that when he was in his late 30s.
Yes.
So he's nowhere close to Warren Buffett's wealth. Most of Warren Buffett's wealth is of late 80s or 90s. Most of it what's the word I'm looking for? But he got most of it beyond 60. So it just compounded and compounded and compounded. And he was patient with it. But yeah, you're bang on right. Like, I don't believe, like, I've got a young lad I was mentoring a little while ago. He come and work with me, mentored. So similar advice as well. If you're young and you want to get into this, like, you're on a council estate, you want to get into something, go and find somebody online that's doing what you want them to do.
Yes.
And then go and find a way you can give them value. Don't just go to, like, in my inboxes all the time, you've got a deal, like, do you want this deal or do you want this? You've got that. And I'm like, I do probably want it, but I've not got the time to sit down to figure out whether or not you are the real deal. Yes. So I don't want to spend 3 hours on a call with you backwards and forwards to figure out you're just lazy. You just heard a video and you thought you wanted to be a deal sourcer, or you thought you wanted to do something, but you've not really got the effort. But if you come to me and go, here you go, I hear you in the property game, found these 3 deals, they're all analysed, all the information, here's everything there, it's yours, you have it. I'd be like, okay, what do you want for that? Nothing. Like, I just want to add the opportunity to be around you, work with you and be around you. But I would like to document what I'm doing and learn the process. So when you buy that deal, can I just follow you on your shoulder to learn the process? But the investment you do, everybody's like, how can I sell the deal? Can I co-source it and sell that on? So if you get in with somebody like that, they will probably want to hire you, especially if you're young. I just done it with a kid. Like, I see his tenacity, I see his discipline and commitment. So straight away, I was looking for an apprentice, but straight away I was like, right, I'll hire you. Like, I wasn't even looking to hire, but I was like, I'll hire you. And he worked with me for a year, and he got mentored for a year, and he is exponentially, like I say it proudly and not in the showing off way either. I know for a fact he is like 20 times in front of where he would have been in that year than he would have been if he just found his way. Because some of the things he was going in the direction of, like, I just guided him on. But that said, he's completely the other end of it. He's like, I don't want to spend a penny. I don't want to go on. I'm like, look, your youth is there as well. You've got to get a balance from that. Even now, so I had a thing where I want to travel monthly. Same again, Skyscanner, what's the cheapest flight? So you could be paid anywhere, anytime. It'll tell you a flight for 17 quid or for 14 quid, like you said. I'm going to Bournemouth next month. It's 400 quid with my family in the caravan. You know, like, so I can just go regular. And don't get me wrong, I probably could afford more, but I still want to invest and grow what I'm doing. So, So you can still get a blend around that. You don't have to go to these 5-star hotels, wear the Fendi tops and all that stuff, and still enjoy your youth. But you do want to compartmentalize that to say to yourself, okay, how much am I going to propose? Like, if I'm earning £2,000 a month, how much am I going to put that into my investments? How much am I going to leave as a fun pot? Because you do want to have fun. You won't get your youth back. As you said, you won't get them days back where you can go partying, you can get up and not have a 3-day hangover. So you do want to have a little bit of advantage of that, but with awareness around aiming towards your goals at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, life is all about balance.
Absolutely,
you know, and you've got to put what's important right at the top. You know, and I used to work in my dad's shop and in my job spot on a Friday evening when the boys were out from the banking. Yeah, I'd join them. Do you know what I mean? But you need to make sure you get up in the morning, you know, for what you got to do. So you can have it all. You've just got to have that motivation and that little push. So Harvey, tell us, what was the main difference you experienced from your little side hustles and trying to rely on yourself to make money and make it happen, to then sort of being employed? What were the main differences you noticed?
Yeah, so I must have been around 19. It's like, funny enough, the journey was, I was never really, all my friends used to do drugs and that, and I've had an active mind. So anytime I've done drugs, experiment with kids, and I enjoyed it, so funny enough. And I was reading Steve Jobs' book. He says about expanding your mind, but I always felt it took me into a different place. Like, obviously, I had different makeup of my mind, hence why I got sectioned a few times. But I was never into smoking or anything. I remember splitting up with a girl around about the age of 18. I split up with a girl, and it broke my heart at the time. Like, it was like,
As
wow,
it
like,
does.
yeah. And at the time, I've never had a girl kind of split up with me as well. So it broke my ego and my heart at the same time. So I was like, wow, like, what happens here? And I started smoking like weed, skunk weed, come out around at the time. But back when we was kids, it wasn't really around, and it was the first introduction of that. So I started smoking that just to just bury my thoughts and just bury myself. And before you knew it, I was like waking up every morning, every night. So I went from being like hustling and doing what I was doing, earning money, to being absolutely broke and not having nothing, like, kind of thing. Like, I could easily go and raise some money. Like, back in the day, one of the things we used to do was go to France, fill up the van with cigarettes and alcohol, drive back, and you'd earn £1,000. Like, as soon as you got a driving license, it's one of the first things I wanted to do, is like drive down there in this van.
Could you have got in trouble with the ports, or was
Kind
it,
of, yeah,
or
kind
was
of, yeah. It was a
it?
bit risky, but it was like, I didn't feel like, for me, in my life, I've done a few things I'm not proud of, and I've realised as soon as I've done them, I'm like, do you know what? That's out of my ethic, my deep ethics. That's out from where I'm at with that. But then there's loads of things, even to this day. I'm like, okay, look, it's in the grey zone. You theoretically, you can go and buy it then. It wasn't illegal to buy, but you theoretically shouldn't have been selling it because it was duty and tax, you know? So, but I'll always look and say to myself, it's in the grey zone. Do I feel unethical doing this? Do I feel like I'm doing something wrong to people? Like, as I said, if I sold heroin to somebody, it's like, that's going to ruin their life. I don't feel
Yeah.
right for that, you know?
Yeah.
Like the revenue in the HMRC, maybe I shouldn't say this on camera, but the HMRC maybe not getting out quite as much revenue so I can kickstart myself. Can I live with that? Yeah, I don't feel unethical with that kind of thing. So yeah, it wasn't exactly quote unquote allowed to do, but you could do it back then. But you just have to raise the finance as well. Like, I didn't have 10 grand to go and fill a van up as well. So you have to get in with the right people to get the money to do that. And I went from being in with the right people to do stuff like that, from all of a sudden smoking weed. I couldn't even tick £10 worth of weed anymore. I couldn't even give me £10 worth of weed on credit because I was just in debt with everybody and it just robbed me of my motivation. So I went from hyperactive energy, out looking for ways to earn money all the time, to then, wow, just a stoner, like Cheech and Chong kind of thing, like, and just robbed me of my ambition. So going through that, I then got my first jobs. That's when I went and first worked and had my first job. But every job I got, 3 months in, I just got this itch. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This really can't work with people. What was the first one? It was in a warehouse. And funny enough, I was in trouble at the time as well with the police, just for weed. I got caught with a bit of weed. And I thought, look, let's get a job. Let's make myself be a better citizen just so I don't get in so much trouble. And it was in a factory, cardboard factory, and literally all day he was just pushing this cardboard into this machine, and it was just like mind numbing. I remember, I can't do this. And every job I've had, a couple of jobs on building sites, all of them 3 months, and it just, I didn't do it purposely 3 months, but when I look back over them, it was all around 3 months. It was like, can't do this anymore. Even when I didn't have another option, it's like, right, I'm not doing this. I'm going to find something else I can earn money with. And I probably have a handful, probably had about 5 or 6 jobs when I was younger.
Okay, so then, what happened? What was the breakthrough? When did you start sort of getting into a regular sort of employment that you enjoyed, or the business? Like, how did you start it? Like, what was the next part? How did this process change?
How did it change? So,
'Cause you're very successful today.
okay-ish. I'm probably not as successful as you, but I'm okay-ish. I'm doing good. But yeah, the change probably was reading. It probably went side and side in reading and educating myself like correctly. So when I was really realised, because when I was young, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have all these things, but like people don't realise how accessible it is. Like, there wasn't iPhones and stuff like that. Even when I remember the first internet, you had to plug it in and dial it up, and you know, so it's like the wealth of knowledge that people got, they just don't realise it got sitting on their lap. But when I started coming across self-education, that was the big game changer for me. And that was around 30, as I said. But even then, like today, like Amazon or Audible or YouTube gives me suggestions of more and more stuff that I can feed my brain with. Where back then it was like I got a really good book. I remember one of the first books I read that was really powerful for me. It was a book called The Celestine Prophecy, and it was a mindset, like it was a spiritual sort of journey book. And then the spirit, like, but I couldn't find them. You didn't have recommendations or anybody to tell you what was what. Then I went into Waterstone one day, and I was a book that's standing out to me. It's called The Alchemist. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
Fantastic book. Again, it was like, wow, like it just, I don't know what it was. I couldn't even read it. I had to put it, at the time, it was when phones was around. Was phones around? No, I can't remember. I asked somebody, what does this mean? But there's something called me on this book, and I read the little label in front of it, and I was like, this seems interesting. So then first few books, but I couldn't find them. I'd read one, I was like, where can I find another one of these style books? But yeah, when I started getting more and more into that, that is what really, really shifted me. But then I went too deep into it. 100 books a year was too scattered. It was too unfocused.
And while
Like,
you were reading, what was you doing in your daily life?
sorry?
While you was reading, what was you doing in your daily life? Like, where was you working at the time,
I
or
wasn't working. I've
you
always worked.
wasn't?
I've never worked. So I've had about 5 jobs, all of them when I was young. So I've always found a way to earn money myself.
Okay.
So probably around the age of 30, it was like we used to bring in fireworks from China, and you spit anything's like this is the thing. I've watched through these cycles, and people get complacent on themselves when fireworks first come in, and you got these containers on the side of the road now every fireworks day, and you got these big rockets, what was hundreds of pounds you bought me from China, so you could send them for a tenner. When that first happened, that job, it was fantastic. You could like in from October all the way up to Christmas, I could earn a year's salary, like more than a
Wow.
year's salary. So it was like fantastic. But then anything that's fantastic, everybody hears about it and everybody dives on it.
Yes.
And the thing is, there's early adopters to new trends, and the early adopters earn really well. But what they have to do is be diligent on making sure that they build stability and infrastructure in what they're doing. Because what happens is, if it's successful, everybody hears about it, everybody jumps on it. So the reason you're successful as an early adopter is because there's more demand than there is supply for what you're doing. But then, as soon as everybody realises you're doing well, the balance goes the other way. It becomes more supply than there is demand. It's like when rent to rents was the first thing. Like everybody's like, "Wow, this is great. You get rent to rent easy." Now there's loads of rent to rents. Not everybody's successful at them. Anything BRRs, when it was first a thing, nobody knew about it. It was like, wow, it was.
I didn't know I was doing a PR. I was like, yeah, I can make this house bigger. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah,
And then I was like, oh, I'm not getting paid. I'm using up my savings doing all of this sort of stuff. And then the mortgage renewal came, and Tony's like, do you want any money out of this? And I'm like, why? How much is it worth? Because bought it for 180,
Mhm.
spent 50 grand doing it up. I was the builder at the time.
Yeah.
I had my own building firm. And all of a sudden he was like, yeah, it's worth 480 grand because it's 6 bed now. 'Cause I turned a 2 bed into a 6 bed. I was like, you what? And he goes, yeah, like your mortgage is only, 140. You can easily take 100, 150 if you want. I was like, that's 2 deposits and 2 more houses.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Tony. Yes, I'll have that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we didn't, this BRRR strategies, I didn't know nothing about it or was
Me
sort
neither.
of educated. But something really valid you just said is, if you are getting ahead and you're doing something good, but everyone else, it's only a matter of time that everyone else is going to find out about it. It's very important to keep your lifestyle at a minimal, and all the money that you're earning is make your thing better.
Mhm.
Build a better platform that's going to make you stand out and get on a totally different level that's going to distinguish you differently
Absolutely.
from somebody else, because it is all about compounding and reinvestment. Because my granddad would always tell me, like, Sean, your first year you're going to have to feed a business. Second year that business will feed itself, and the third year is when it's going to start feeding you. And it's just so important, because soon as people see that first batch of couple of grand come into the bank account, they're like, yeah, I'll have that.
Yeah.
And now I'm living
Nice.
the lifestyle.
Mhm.
And that's how they fall flat on their face very quickly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of expenses that come into business. You've got advertising, marketing. If you want to grow, you need to increase your stock or what you're sort of offering and what makes you different. Because a lot of people turn it up, nose up to things like branding as well. But branding is so important. How does something talk to people when you're not there?
Mhm.
What logo or colors do they see that they think, oh, that's Harvey Growth Property right there? Because that's what you want. You
Mhm.
want something else talking. And it's really important to know that if you're in business and you want to be bloody good at this and you want to put money into assets or other asset classes, you've got to be the best in your trade. And so you've got to look at all 4 corners, and you have to be everything in that business,
Mhm.
because you're the CEO and you're pushing the right people in the right places. You might not have to do everything individually yourself. Maybe at the start, you might want to take a little bit of ownership over that. But eventually, once money starts coming in, you say, right, you're the best at that. My time doesn't create that much value doing that
Mhm.
same job as you.
But like circling back on what you were saying there as well, is understanding when you go for that growth, that is the biggest one for me. Is when you scale up, like it's the staff. Understand having the infrastructure to hire staff, train staff, and keep them retained in your business. That's the single-handed most hardest thing in a business. Hence, when I go back to that thing when I say security, independence, financial freedom, there's no way you're going to be to a level where you can buy jets without having a lot of staff.
Mm.
There's no way, unless you were just lucked out and you you've done some sort of app one day. But again, exceptions don't make the rule, and they don't break the rules either. You know, like the rules are, listen, if you want to be super, super, super wealthy, you need a big, big team. You've got a big, big team, you have people that's going to be doing things wrong around you. And this is the biggest journey. I'll see people go through, like, picking up from where you was with that. You'll see people successful themselves, they go through that, and they start then want to dip into the money and thinking, well, I'll dip into the money, but get somebody else to do it for me because I'm in the position now I can do that. But I think it's as easy to say, not hire you, sit down. I thought that. My first hires was literally, well, you want a job? Here's a laptop. Great. Like, and I just spurted out everything out of my head. I knew, because I had quite a decent bit of knowledge in my head, but I had no process to train them in what I knew. So I just kept on telling them it, expecting them to remember it and be able to run with that.
Yeah.
And it didn't. So it ended up creating a massive mess. So then what I've seen loads of people do, and I've done it to a degree myself, is you've got your lifestyle over here now because you've been so used to being the driver of it. You're now gone from year 1, year 2, year 3, where you're saying you're getting paid. You're getting paid, you spend that money, you try and hire some people so you can maintain your lifestyle. But then all of a sudden your money's getting drained because they're not doing it correctly. But then you want to maintain your lifestyle. You've got the cars and you've got the house now that commits you. And before you know it, you're an entrepreneur trapped in, as you said, the rat race, the matrix, or whatever you called it, as an entrepreneur, far from what a lot of entrepreneurs get into it for, which is a little bit more freedom. I see so many people get trapped in businesses that drain them more than they would do if they had a job.
It's very important to choose the right people around you. You know, you've got to really research in who am I working with, you know, because the number one thing is, like, a lot of people start joint ventures and partnerships with two totally different people from different backgrounds who've got different mindsets. You've got to be very careful. Otherwise, it could be the best thing you can do, but it could easily be the worst thing that you'll ever do, and you won't ever want to do it again. And it's the same thing when you're getting staff in your in your company. You've got to find people who are passionate about that, because remember, it's your dream, it's not their dream. You know, they're just doing something. But if you've got someone like an apprentice who goes, I really want to learn what you're doing and I want to do it with you and help you get to a stage, well, remember, they're going to be adding value to your business. They're going to make that income generate to eventually for you to afford another person who can sort of help you to that sort of level. But at the same time, you know, I think sometimes you shouldn't have sort of expectations of people that this person's going to be loyal to me for the next 4 or 5 years, because sometimes you don't even know your loyalty to yourself, never mind another person around you. So Harvey, look, tell us a little bit about your first deal and how did you do it?
My first deal. So my first deal was a piece of land. I bought a piece of land that I was looking to develop 2 3-bedroom houses on. So
Okay, where was that?
that was in Chadwell. Chadwell St Mary, not Chadwell Heath, but Chadwell St Mary. So,
And how much was that?
£30,000 I paid for it at the time. So this was in 2009. It was right in the height of the recession.
And how did you get the money together? Just hustling?
I had a little bit of savings myself. My mum, funny enough, and my mum inherited a property from my nan. So my nan very much come from that. She bought the house when she moved out of London. She bought the house there. I think paid 14 grand for the property. And paid it off.
Okay, cool.
Over the time. So I borrowed a little bit of money from that and had a little bit of savings myself.
Okay, so you've got this piece of land, so there's not ultimately that much pressure that you're paying a loan somewhere or something like that.
No, I bought it outright cash.
Okay, so that's your land. So go on.
So it wasn't as good. Like, so when I teach people, it sounds a lot more sexy and exciting than it actually is. When I teach people, I've got a thing. I'll send you a picture of it if you want to share it with people. Call it my Delta Matrix. I say, look, at the bottom, your foundation of property is buy-to-lets, family homes. That's what's your bread and butter. Gives you stability income. It's not sexy. It's not going to make you a millionaire. It's not going to give you loads of money. But you buy them and get a foundation and a regular income from them. It gives you. It allows you to skill up. Above that is HMOs and service accommodations. To do HMOs today, you really need all en-suite stuff, and SAs a lot more complex with the management and stuff like that. So this needs a little bit more skill. Even if you look at HMOs, a bank, I think 2 banks are out at time of recording this that will lend first-time landlords on HMOs. Other than that, none of them want to lend to you. And the reason behind that is because it is more of a complex strategy. So they want you to have a bit of experience before you jump into that. Then above that, on this like Delta Matrix, is your commercial conversions and then your developments. So what I've done is I took this triangle and I tipped it upside down and tried doing development too early. And what I say to people, I try and find people where you are on your journey, what's suitable to you, what's right for you. And I say the power of your questions and the power of your results. So on that Delta Matrix, I say, look, money, knowledge, network, and then in the middle of it, time is what glues any business together, not just property. So then I say to people, look, on a question of 1 to 10, how much money you got, how much time you got, how much knowledge you got, how much network you got. Because the further you go up this Delta Matrix, the more you're going to need to be close to the 10. Like, because like just because you've got a builder who's your friend or you've got a builder that done a buy to let doesn't mean he could develop a development for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean your accountant that you met from your uncle can tell you all the tax loopholes involved with developing that makes these developments much more worth it. So the further you go up that delta matrix, the more network knowledge and skill and money you're going to need. So you get these odd exceptions of the rule, as I said, like the odd person can jump straight in at a high level. But underneath it as well, with them questions, as I said, I mark them from 1 to 10. With them questions, I say courage, confidence, conviction. How much of that have you got? Because I know a load of people that have got knowledge and money, but they don't convict on what they know because they haven't got the courage. The biggest thing that holds us back is fear. Our own mind, that internal dialogue that holds us back. So the bigger the task, and this goes back to what I was touching on earlier on. James Clear talks about the 2-minute rule, and he wrote a book called Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah. And he says about 2-minute rule. He said, build up on things. If you want to be an exerciser, just task to do 2 minutes worth of exercise because starting is more important than the actual intensity of it and the regularity of it to make yourself subconsciously believe I'm an exerciser is much more important than going to the gym an hour a day. So the regularity of it. So most people, they'll get sucked into from trainers as well and gurus going, yeah, do one deal, be financially free. You can do this one deal here and you can have £1,000 a month instead of £200 a month. But the reality is, they don't tell you that one deal and you can do it all with other people's money. I'm an advocate of other people's money. I lend money from time to time, but it's like lend money responsibly where you are in your journey. To do a development, as I've very much learned, you need architects, planning consultants, you need like proper builders, you need a lot to do that.
Building control, instructed, and what is it? Planning regulations as well.
Absolutely.
On top of that, and there's so many people you got to manage, including the builders.
Absolutely, and exactly that. Build part of it is our part. So this is why, again, if I went to a bank and said to them, "Look, I'm doing development as my first deal," the likelihood of them lending it to me is 0 to none. Because they'll go, look, because it makes math on paper doesn't mean you're going to be able to manage that and deliver that through. And this is it. This is what I say to people. Make sure on the Delta Matrix that you're in a right. If you've got a lot of money, a lot of courage and conviction, you can jump up a little bit higher because you can handle the pressure that's going to come with building control, all these different angles that you don't really understand coming to you. But if you've not, start a little bit lower and build up to it. Like get your momentum up. So my first deal was a land development, and I lost money on it. So I lost probably about 10k, but not just 10k. That same 30k could have bought me just another single buy to let at the time. I bought some in Essex, and so the opportunity cost of equity growth I've had, income I've had, is that deal lost me hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Wow. And what went wrong with that deal?
Nothing went wrong. I just didn't develop it. I didn't have the courage. Once I got it from auction, I put my hand up, boom, it's yours. It was like, oh, wow, really? But then like I procrastinated on it massively because it was too fearful.
Wow.
So there was a massive gap. Even though I got a bit of courage, there was a massive gap between me executing on it. But then it sat there in the background. I've just done some buy-to-lets, got some momentum. Then years later, I got into a bit of a financial difficulty as well. And I just sold it because I was in some financial difficulties at the time. So it was like, yeah, let's get some cash from it. So I sold it at about a 10k loss. And like when you account for the architecture, because I did get some drawings drawn up on it. We did start going through the planning process. So I got a fair way into it. But
and that didn't add any value for someone to build a house on that land?
It didn't. No, there was a lot. There was a battle with the council. It had something called a ransom strip. But it's actually called a ransom strip. So there's a piece of land the council owned that you had to get permission from the council to get across, and the council wasn't playing ball with it at the time. So it made the land it was a good plot of land, but where it's positioned, it made it it was buildable, but to somebody who's not knowledgeable, it has been built on today now, funny enough.
Oh, wow. Imagine if you held on to that.
Yeah, but then imagine if I held on to it, I might have been just bankrupt as well at the same time.
Yes.
I sold a load of Ethereum in, what year was it? I can't remember. Just before it pumped again, I sold a load of Ethereum. It went up a bit, and I sold a load of Ethereum because, again, I was a bit stretched financially.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they pumped, and I was like, bloody, I earned some money on them, but I was like, wow, but I sold them at a high, could have earned more. And I remember somebody saying to me, like, wow, like that wasn't the right move. I said, but what is the right move then? Why was the point of buying assets and being completely skint or potentially defaulting on stuff if I've got an asset? The idea of having assets is to have some safety net and buffer income from them. And of course you want the maximum income from that, but
absolutely,
if you need the money at the time, then you've got to sell, kind of thing. But
and you've got options, then you had the option that I've put part of money here, I've made something. You've got to also know your exit strategy and what you're content with as well.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to have exit strategy. So when I say to people, look, I'm a fan of lending other people's money, so I don't put people off. I do lend other people's money, but make sure you've got exit strategies. I say, look, if you're going to lend, like for BRR vanilla buy-to-lets, lending other people's money doesn't really work, because the reality is you're not going to be able to recycle enough cash to be able to pay back the principal loan and the interest on top. So unless you have got backup money to come somewhere else, or you've got a refinance or some windfall, or you earn well somewhere else, earning £200 a month or £300 a month from a buy to let to pay somebody back, nobody's going to want to be paid back £200 a month on a 10 grand loan. It's not attractive to them. The thing is, to do private lending, you've got to do more like HMOs, commercial lending, commercial conversions. You're dealing with planners, architects, building control, loads of different variables, different banks, different lenders, which is much more stressful, more pressure. But the way I see it to people is, look, if that can cash flow £1,000 a month and you think you're going to have a shortfall, at least you've got £1,000 a month to pay them back. So make sure you've got some sort of method to pay that. Like, I just loaned 50k from somebody, and we didn't get the plan of what I wanted to run the buildings, the next guest house. So we didn't get the plan of what I wanted. I've exited it, and I've left my refurb money in now, which I thought was initially going to be 70k, end up being about 95k, because there was certain things we had to change along the way. I was trying to do it as service accommodation. The planners come in and stop me from doing that. So halfway through the refurb, we literally had paint on the walls. I had to re-chase it out, so I was going to do a HMO. So I had to do a new alarm system. So we was at second fix stage of rewired everything, and I had to now chase the walls out over fresh plastered and painted walls. So it cost me more money, cost me more on time and lending as well, because it delayed things with the builders. So, but I've got the backup and the means to be able to pay that person back in the meantime.
Yeah.
Like, if it didn't go to plan, I didn't exit it where I wanted to exit it. So yeah, my first deal was a piece of land, lost money on that. My second deal, I bought just a property in Southend-on-Sea. And this goes back to our rule. Everybody says only invest within an hour from where you live. So I've done that. I grew up mainly in Averley. The place I knew was either Stratford, Averley. Averley wasn't an investment location. Even with no education, I knew, like, it's a little village, no trains, no stock.
Yeah.
So I naturally went within an hour from where I was, and I went to Southend-on-Sea. And it turned out I ended up buying right in the middle of a red light district and a heroin and crack addict area. But I didn't know. I didn't know it no better, because it was an hour away.
You didn't do your research.
I've done a bit of research, but it wasn't as easy to do research back then as it is today.
Yeah.
Firstly, but secondly, even with research, like, I teach people how to do research, but you've got to go beyond just what tells you in the statistics.
Yeah.
I live in Brentwood, a nice affluent area, and somebody got stabbed there about a year ago and got killed. If you looked at it on statistics, you'd say, "Well, murders, like, don't go to Brentwood." But like, the statistics tells you a certain amount, it gives you a good base level, but not enough to really know fully. But either way, I didn't do enough due diligence on it. But
Would you say to people, go and walk the patch? You know, if you're going to buy in an area that's an hour away and you don't know it too well, rather than looking what's in black and white on paper, would you say go and walk the patch, have a little look in the area, or that
helps.
Still doesn't?
It helps. But the main thing to do is network. So the biggest thing is getting to know, like, so for example, I bought that one in Southend. I moved my friend in there, and think, luckily enough, he likes ladies of the night, I think, because he stayed there for about 7 years. but literally 4 doors up from where I bought it was a drug rehabilitation centre. So, like, I just didn't know the area. I didn't know it well enough. So then I bought a couple more local. The next deal I stumbled across doing BRR, and then I stumbled across using other people's money as well. And then I met a guy from Stockton-on-Tees, which is 4 hours away. And he said, "Why don't you invest up there?" And I'm like, "Well, I would, but I don't know anybody." And I remember at the time, there's a guy, I don't know if you'd be able to remember him. There's a guy, one of the first people I found online. His name was AJ. He was from Romford. So being born in Stratford and growing up in Averley, Romford's right in the middle of both of those.
Yeah.
And he was buying property all over the country. And he was a guru and a coach at the same time. I remember thinking, wow, talking about, I remember buying my third property. I didn't even know what yield was, you know, and he talked about yield and all these things. I was like, wow. And it planted the seed. And when I met this guy, I was like, okay, I met this guy, and he's from up north. And I remember the first words I said, I just don't know anybody. I don't know enough about property yet to jump on there. Once I've done a few deals locally and I understand it a bit better, how long a refurb should take and what a kitchen should cost, I'll do it. He went, "You know somebody, you know me." He had over 100 properties in the area. So he met a girl down where I live, and he moved down. I knew that girl. So we got friendly. I went up there with him, and he just guided me and helped me. And then there's plenty of areas up there, like the place in Southend I bought, but he just guided me away from them. Like, every city's got macro and microeconomics going in it, and you've got good areas, bad areas, and really poor areas. And even London's still got that to a degree, you know. So it's not about the city; it's about identifying little micro spots within that. It's like Southend's a great investment area, or was, but I got the wrong place, and I just was price driven. I tried to buy the cheapest place. So the usual indicator, if it's cheap for a reason. It's in the baddest areas. But the best thing you can do is network with somebody. And I had, by chance, met this guy. It made me realise I don't know stopped on a tease any better than I knew Southend, but I did because I knew this guy. But I met him randomly. But you don't have to randomly meet people today. Get online, get in Facebook groups again, and like network online. Ask people questions. Go to network events. What's this area like? I'm thinking of buying a property here, and ask multiple people so you can triangulate the information. Because I bought a property, saying to walk in the street, I bought a property once that in the daytime looked great. And then I pulled up one evening, just the day before he was about to complete on it, I pulled up in the evening when the kids was out of school, and there was little kids on motorbikes, about 14-year-old on mopeds, doing wheelies, smoking weed, drinking Stellas, and it was a neighbouring property. In the daytime looked perfect. At night time looked very, very different, you know. So it will help you, by the way, walking the streets. It does help. But the main thing is networking. Ask people's opinions and other investors' opinions, not just people that live there.
Yes. So if you've got some money right now, what is your strategy right now? What's working for you now, Harvey? Like, what are you going to be carrying on doing going forward? Because interest rates have gone up, inflation's crazy at the moment. We've just seen one of them banks in America default, and they've gone down. And somewhere along the line, I know there will be some sort of ripple effect because banks lend to each other.
Absolutely,
and if one bank's got that problem, come on, we're going to see other things happening. And, we've been long enough in the market to know, hey, look, the ingredients don't look good right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the stock might not be selling as good or for the right prices. And sometimes what the media try to do is try to uplift the market and try hold it up. But being invested in the market and having your ear close to the ground, we can feel any minute something's going to happen. I mean, the only thing that I see combating any of this is like the fact that we do have a housing shortage. We're on an island, and there's currently three families being, there's three families to every one house that's being built, which is trying to combat this. But in this short-term period, I feel there is still going to be some adversity. What is your strategy right now?
So my strategy at the moment is the same as it's always. I like single let properties. I like just family homes. You can't buy them in the south. You've not been able to do that for a long while. It just don't stack. Full stop. So I still like buying single lets. I'll buy in property terms. I will buy whatever works for me, what suits my experience. Do I want to take development on? No, because I just know the mind space it takes up from me is not worth the trade off from that. But so I still will buy properties, but my main strategy is earning active income to buy properties. So I'm not relying on building up an income from my properties or doing BRR. So and I call it all-weather portfolio. I'll try to build out a stability portfolio where if one goes too high in rates, this other one can support it. And I've got multiple streams of income coming from social housing, HMOs, SA, commercial, and mainly residential as a good foundation for that. But my main aim and what I'm doing at the moment is trying to create what you could call maybe digital real estate. I'm trying to create online assets. So Daniel Priestley wrote a great book on this called 24 Assets. And the new assets, which used to be like the money back in the day, the assets was like the gold, the real estate, the oil, and these different things as assets. The new assets is attention and digital and tech and technology. And if you can emphasize that enough and earn a big enough income from that and put that into buying houses, if the houses, whatever happens, I think if you buy houses with the correct way, of giving yourself a little bit of a buffer in them and good enough yields, you're fairly protected. But it's just wealth building. I agree with you as well. I think the pressures on the lack of stock is going to keep us held there for quite a while, and I half help support that. But again, I'm nervous about that with the future. Like you see these homes that can, like these 3D printers and these machines that can lay bricks and these flat pack homes. At the moment, that technology is there, but it's just not trendy enough in the UK. Everybody just frowns it a little bit. You've seen these containers turn into homes.
Yeah.
I think after a certain amount of pressure, the governments are going to have to go, do you know what? Let's start building some of these 3D homes.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, and these people at the lower end are going to say, look, it's a home still. So I'm not sure, like, I don't think properties will carry on doubling that they did over the last previous years. I really don't think. I think London's indicated that already because London since 2016 as a whole, there is micro and macroeconomics and smaller spots, but it's only grown about 8 or 9% in the last 8 years.
They have predicted by 2033, next 10 years, that an average house in London will cost about 900,000. Would you agree?
I'm not sure I keep on pushing forward. It's gone from 2016. The property price in 2016 was about 488,000. Today it's about 500 and I don't know, depending where you look, about late 500s sort of thing. So it's not gone up significantly how it did previously. And the main driver behind that is the price per earnings ratio. You've got to imagine most people that own their home bought them 20, 30, 40 years ago. So they're not buying their new homes based on their salary or their savings. They're based on the equity that they've gained in their property. The biggest support of a market is younger people coming through, first time buyers. And if the average salary in London is £39,000, and even like there's only 5% of people that earn above £75,000. 5% of the UK earn above £75,000. So just do the math on it for me. It's like, okay, if you need a 5 times multiplier and you're only £75,000, you live in London and your rent's £3,500 a month anyway. Tell me how you can afford a £900,000 property unless wages dramatically shoot up. I just can't see it myself personally. I really can't.
Okay. Tell us something. Tell me, what's the end game for you? Like, what do you see that looking like?
The end game. So again, at the moment, to circle back on what you're saying, understand digital real estate, understanding online, understanding funnels, digital assets that can. I've got digital assets now that don't pay me as much as property, but gives me a recurring income as much more passive than property. And I'm like, oh wow, I've got this mixed up. So what I need to be concentrating more in is creating more funnels, more digital assets that can give me recurring income to buy harder assets like property. Because the only downside to digital assets is they've not got as much of a life shelf, like a long time shelf life. That's the word I'm looking for. So they can change and evolve. So you might last 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Well, I'm pretty certain if you buy for me, if you buy properties in areas where the price per earnings ratio is in line. So if the average wage is 30 grand and the average property is 150 grand, that's in line with what people can afford. I think salaries will always creep up with inflation, although we're going to go into a big disruption of salaries soon because of tech and AI and chat GTP is going to really disrupt the marketplace of jobs, whether we like it or not. Automation cars, there's loads of stuff that's going to we could potentially have a little void period where we transition as human beings, like when we come out from the agricultural revolution into the industrial revolution. There was a transition. Everybody worked on the farms. They had to start working in the factories, and they needed them less and less in the factories because there's more and more machines. So we're going to have to, as a human race, transition. I don't know what that looked like, but for me, I just know the future is online. If you can evolve, like, it's not an end game, but this is the evolving game for me to just get more business online and carry on buying assets from that.
Nice. It is all about evolving and changing because markets do change, as we said, before. What does success mean to you?
Success for you living on your terms. That's my wife. Just do it on your terms. Like, don't get me wrong. Every day you can't do everything perfectly. There'll be days you feel challenged, days you don't enjoy it, days you think, am I cut out for this? But for me, it's living on my terms. And don't get me wrong, living on my terms, people get this mixed up all the time. They think it is living on the beach in the Caribbean, just drinking pina coladas, smoking a Havana cigar. It's not. I still have to put the effort in, but I do it on my terms. I travel when I want. I take my boy to school every day and my daughter to play school. And yeah, I'll do it on my terms. So that's success for me. Like, if I can do it on my terms and fulfillment, like just getting enjoyment from it.
Well, this has been a really amazing chat. I've got to know you a lot more in depth,
Mhm.
and there is so much more to you, and you've got a wealth of knowledge. Like, you've got so many quotes, so many books. Like, that's priceless. But the most important thing that I've sort of learned is, you haven't had the best start. You've had some troubles, but your ability to learn from your failures and bounce back,
Mhm.
and that's so refreshing to hear. So if someone else right now is having a little bit of adversity and they felt that I failed and this is it, what's the one thing that you'd say to them, Harvey?
It's temporary. And it's temporary it's as temporary as long as you want it to be. Just take action step. You can't click your fingers and be better straight away. It's going back to that mental health thing earlier on. I didn't quite finish that because I think I went on a tangent. Apologies to everybody. But look, I've got all the sympathy. Somebody's got mental health problems or struggles, but if you're doing nothing about it, the sympathy completely goes. Because exactly that, what Andrew Tate says, is mental health problems are just a situation. So if you don't like that situation, remove yourself from that situation. I've learned that, like, anytime I'm feeling anxious, overwhelmed, depressed, it's because of the situation I'm in. I've either got relationships or around people I don't want to be with, or pressures which I've put myself in. So I can't click my fingers and automatically get myself out of those situations, but let me work towards getting away from this. Like, this is the identification of my stress, depression, or angst, whatever it is. So let me remove myself from that. It might take me a month, 2 months, or a year, but let's work towards that. But it's always going to be as temporary as you want it to be, and within reason of how quickly you can work away from it.
That's amazing advice there. Thank you so much. If you could just tell the audience how they can follow you, and if they wanted some, some of the things you offer.
Yeah, so main platforms. Well, I'm on most of the platforms, but you can just if you type in Harvey Growth Properties, you'll find me on all the platforms. What have I got to offer? I'd love to offer just giving back something. So I don't want to sell you nothing. I copy Alex Omozi. I've got nothing to sell you. I just like to see. I get fulfillment from people progressing and moving forward. So reach out to us on the platforms if you want to, but probably Instagram is the place to hang out on the most.
Amazing, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode. I hope this brought you some value. Don't forget to like, comment, share, smash the bell notification so you don't miss a single podcast. We've got more amazing guests on the lineup, but let us know what you think. And, maybe we can do a live together and answer some more of your questions. But join us on the next one.
Let me say one thing before we go, though. Sean, carry on doing what you're doing, mate. You're real inspiration. At 36, still pretty young. I feel young at 45. Massive inspiration. Keep doing what you're doing, putting this message out for people. Like, it's really admirational of what you're doing and the message you're putting out and the reason you're doing it for. So, yeah, I'm inspired and I'm really like proud of you, mate. So keep
Thank
it up,
you.
mate.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And that's a wrap.